Welcome back. It's going to be mods and reassembly part 3. I think we're going to have it running by the end of this one. So on the last video, got the head gaskets on, heads torqued, the push rods in, rocker arms on, and I was cleaning the valve covers before it got too dark for us to continue. So all I gotta do is brake clean them off, hunt down the bolts, whatever I did with them. I know where they're at. Hunt down the bolts, get the valve covers back on. Got an intake manifold gasket set last night, and we'll goop it up. Smart TV, the RPM air gap, at least on mine. I like the new seals. I'll show you that. I'm really skipping ahead. I'll show you what we're gonna do to seal that bastard up. But let's get to it. We'll get these valve covers on. Right, check out our gaskets. I like these. The new Velcro, well, not new, I don't know how long they've been doing it, but they're metal reinforced rubber. I like these. However, when I used them last, I did it like I did a kegger. I always put a little goo in the corners, and these have worked great for the keggers. But with my RPM air gap, it did not work so good, and it was just every time I'd get on the throttle, I was trying to hunt down an oil leak. I thought it was my turbo oil lines and the T right there leaking. No, it was me accelerating and oil going right out the back, right over this. So we're gonna goop the corners, and then we're gonna put a layer of RTV on top of it and let this kind of be a reinforcement instead of, I don't like when I gotta get the RTV really tall. So I'd rather have this plus some RTV rather than RTV doing the whole job. And once I did that, it worked fine. So that's our plan. We're also going to put a little bit of goop, just like I did on the head gaskets. I didn't put it on thick. I know I was working there for a minute, but all I did was very thin coat around each coolant passage. Goop the corners, set the gaskets or set the end pieces in, and then goop the corners again. And then we'll hopefully get a decent plop in that oil line. We don't have to pull off. Hopefully the manifold will sneak right in and drop down. But let's get to it. Little note, this thing is still floating on the seals, so the seals were actually good enough on this one. I don't really know what happened on the last one. Maybe I mushed it out and I just didn't realize it. It's possible, whenever I did the cam. But if you look right here, these gaskets will end up pretty much lined up with the top ledge of the intake, so you can look around and kind of chase it. And as you tighten this up, there's supposed to be an actual torque that you set these to. I haven't. You're supposed to not reuse those bolts. This will be at least the 10th time I've, 8th time I've reused those bolts. Not worried about it. They've been fine. But you're gonna go around and around and around and around, and you will just keep tightening those. It will just keep every round. You'll find that another bolt gets loose, and you just keep walking it in. Make sure you pay attention that you don't drive this side down first, and then you got gasket misalignment. So we're just gonna snug them all up and start chasing, keeping these as level as possible. If it's a little off, it's fine. The gasket will make up for it, but we'll try to do a decent job. Also, I did not glue it. I didn't put any goo on the gasket side this time. I don't plan on swapping the manifold, but if I do want to do any more work and take it off, I've done that before and done manifold swaps, and as long as I do it carefully, the gasket will stay stuck to the head, and manifold off, manifold on, except for cleaning up the China wall gaskets. But anyway, here we go. Intake manifolds on and torqued. I ended up putting the intake air temp sensor in the hat. It became a pain. It's right by the throttle linkage. I should have moved it just a little bit or pitched it a little better, but I don't like it in the hat. But I didn't have an open port in there in the manifold, so wherever I had the PCV hooked in this port back here, I'm not using a PCV. We're done with that. So I'm going to pull this out, weld this hole up, and put the sensor in the manifold where I prefer it. In the manifold it will read hotter, which I want it to read hotter. I want to know what the actual intake manifold air temperature is reading. You can put it in the tube and it'll read cooler, and that's how some people cheat with the factory fuel injection if you can't tune it. And if you can't tune it, fair enough. But if you can tune it, for example, if intake air temp's too hot, it pulls timing. You want it to do that. That's how it protects itself. You can tell it it's cooler, it'll put more fuel in. So there's reasons they move it to trick it, but if you can tune it like we can, we don't have to do that. I'd rather it read the hottest possible so I can put some safety into it with the tune in the timing and fuel tables. So I'm gonna get this guy out and we're gonna put it in there. Exhaust gaskets don't look too promising, but this is just a representation of the eBay versus the Felpro parts store. Some people commented about Ramflex gaskets. I will get a set ordered. They may end up on this, it may end up on the next setup. But look at these corners. This is bigger everywhere. So I think that's why. I mean, it's not as I expected it to be a lot bigger, but I'd say it's an 1/8 inch at the top, and then these corners are all made quite a bit bigger. So I'm hoping some of the exhaust leak issues we had, you can see it clearly leaked, but some of them sealed up. So I'm hoping this will do it. Now, unfortunately, this actually matches the gasket pretty decently, I believe. Ooh. So not only is the gasket too damn big, but the header is, and that's why they leak. The last set I welded up the corners and ground them back down to fix that. I'm not going to worry about that right now. Well, back to it. We're going to get the manifolds on. I'm going to get the spark plugs in. I'm going to get the wires on and kind of finalize the engine, or at least crank rearward kind of finalized, and then I'll put the radiator in. I took the radiator out for a reason. So it was either because it made life easier getting to the turbo stuff or something. So I'll wait to put the front back together. Something else to note on these eBay cheap headers, and the fancy ones may be just as bad. The room they give you for the bolt holes, or for the bolts, you can barely get the open end of a 3/8 on. So every time I've worked on it, I've actually taken a hammer and a pry bar and jammed it in between the bolt and the tube to try to dent the tube in. And this time I got a little more aggressive. So now I can get the closed end of the 12.38 that was trimmed down just a bit on damn near every one of them. And on the ends, I've got a 1/2 inch headed bolt. So we can get them pretty damn tight. So I would recommend doing that. I was a little worried maybe I'd stretch it too far and crack something. I haven't had any problems out of them. They've been fine. If you've played with good headers, sometimes they're a real pain in the ass. Cheap headers can be even worse. Well, anyway, let's keep going. Well, you guys won't be able to see much because we've ran out of daylight again. And I was debating just starting again tomorrow when I get home, but I think I'm just going to keep working. You're not going to miss a whole lot. There's still going to be a time lapse and you'll see me dancing around the engine bay, but well, if you really want more detail, you can go back and watch the videos of when I put this thing together in the first place. But either way, when we get the drain lines tightened up, I'm going to get the other down pipe on. This one's in and connected. It's not tight at the bottom, but up top, wastegate's tight. Everything else is good to go. So I'm just going to work. Still got some things to do, but it's alive. Still can't believe how much quieter those mufflers are. Just gonna let it run for a bit, make sure it goes through its heat cycles. I'm gonna check the drain plug one more time just in case. And then we're going to go down the road. Well, we're not going on a ride tonight. I got to fix some of these cheap parts. Out of everything, though, I think that's the only problem I got. I don't want to risk that line coming off while driving down the road and cooking it again. So, I guess this is it for today. And I'll get some parts on the way. Man, that sucks, but it's running. It sounds fine. Just got to fix that. When I pulled the line off, it stripped the threads out because it's cheap Chinese crap. It was a cheap kit. It's just time to upgrade. Well, it's the next day, and we didn't get to go for a drive. We have an oil leak problem with this cheap Chinese adapter. I mean, all of this is cheap Chinese crap. That's beside the point. The adapter itself stripped out last time I took it apart. It felt soft when I put it together. So I believe this is tapped for pipe threads underneath it if I remove this. So I've got some fittings from work. I'm going to pull this line back off, pull the adapter off, and hopefully I'm right, it's threaded, and I put new fitting in, and maybe we cross our fingers and that line threads on and we don't have any problems, and I guess the right size, I hope. I still want to get new lines, but that's going to be several days off, another Amazon order, or even if we spend some real money and get a better set of lines, it's still going to take time to get here, and I want to go drive it. So let's cross our fingers and see what happens. Here's the fitting I got for it. Pipe thread. There's a restrictor of sorts in that hole, but I believe it's straight thread, not pipe thread. So, ruh-roh. But we're gonna do something a little taboo with this cheap China turbo. I'm gonna take my tap and I'm gonna put some grease in there, and I'm gonna tap it, and then I'm gonna get Q-tips and wipe all the grease with the shavings back out of it. And we're gonna see if that works. Worst come to worst, I gotta make another gasket, drill and tap the other piece, but I'd rather get rid of this plate. Well, here we go. Alright, let's see if the quickie fix got us back on the road. Everything else should be alright. Drains are tight. Battery hooked up. Ish. Pressure. I was a little worried the little restrictor inside of there is bigger than the restrictor that was in that adapter. Wasn't overly concerned. I am curious though if later on, whenever I build it, if I put another oil pump in it, if I need to go ahead and get a larger, higher volume oil pump to make up for the leaks. Careful doing this. You got spark jumping somewhere and vapor's getting here and sliding up. But it runs. I'll let it run till the fans come on. Let it cook off the rest of the oil that was leaking all over the turbo and stuff. And, then we'll take it for a drive. This weekend, depending on what I have going on, I want to try to keep the momentum going. But like this is here temporarily. I even use the hole down that was under the hood. It's just threaded into the bed. Just something really quick so I can get it down the road. And the wires are tied up to the frame. following the wiring harness, not the best way possible, just on there. I want to put it in the frame rail over here. Get some weight towards the back, because I'm not doing anything else with this space, and I've been debating cutting that out. I'm not sure. It acts as a cross member. It's also that shock upper brackets hooked to it, but I think I can at least get the battery right here. And then get my wiring updated for like the trans cooler, still not wired, and it's gonna need an oil cooler too. Warm up. I think this thing actually needs a little more tuning. Well, not only that, while I was doing some other stuff, I took out the O2 sensor, so there is no correction right now. It's just running on the base map. And where before it was probably pulling a little bit of fuel while it was really cold, while it was warming up, now it's not doing that. So full temperature, it should run fine, but it being cold without any correction at all, because I'd never really dialed it in that much after I went to the turbos and changed the map sensor, which, if you know anything about tuning JTEC stuff, if you change the map sensor, you get to change everything. It is not like LS stuff. You're not rescaling anything. It's all raw data. So we'll let this thing warm up. Let's see. This guy's still working. I forgot how to change. I think I just hold this maybe. There we go. Our wideband's still working. See, we're not that rich. We're right around 14. There's our fuel. Yeah, I could use a little less fuel while it's cold. Alright, well, I'm gonna let this thing warm up and smoke all that oil off, and then we'll take it to the gas station. Oh. Not having idle air control sucks. Just in case. Everything should be nice and tight. We'll put gas in it because I have no idea how much is in it. Got to cook all that oil out of the exhaust. driving my Challenger to work this last week, and it makes 485 horsepower or whatever it's rated at. It doesn't touch this thing. And it downshifted in a second and held it. I'm so happy with these tires. Well, that's going to do it for this video. Drove fine, everything seems fine. It's going to be a while till the exhaust stops smoking because of all the oil in the muffler. Looks like I've got some more work to do. I'm going to drive it tomorrow. I need to haul some trash because I made a pretty big mess. And then obviously I got to do some tuning. She's a little fat. It's fine wide open at 4.5 pounds there. We were high 11s, low 12s. That's fine. I really want to address some electrical issues. Like, only one of the fans is working right now, so I've got to figure out whether it's the temperature switch that's failed, or it could be a relay gone bad, the fan went bad. It's a Hella brand relay, I believe. I'll verify that later. I've had one fail on my RAM before. It's rated for like 30 or 40 amps. A single fan shouldn't hurt that, but it hasn't been on there that long, that many years. It's not like it's been through that many cycle times. But I don't want to accidentally cook this thing again. So this weekend, I'll kind of make a game plan of what I'm going to do. I want to fix some electrical things and the engine wiring harness on the engine that go to the injectors. I'd like to get it laid out so that it can go into the intake manifold and around instead of over the valve covers. And get rid of some of the extra wires and tie in the O2 sensors back into it so that one O2 sensor is reporting for all three that it's looking for, and this one has 3. There's 3 upstream, 1 downstream to check the cat. It's annoying, and you have to have all of them in there or it will not act right. So I'm gonna try to use one sensor to just average it all out and see if that'll work for simplicity. Right now it's running on just the base table and it runs fine. It just needs tuned in. So I'm not concerned about not doing left and right bank fueling. About all I got. I want to get some better oil lines and some other things, but we're gonna have to wait for those to get here. I'm gonna have to measure and figure out how I want to route everything. I think the next thing we're gonna do is relocate the battery out of the bed and put it in front of the passenger front tire. Move some weight behind the tire will help take weight off of the front and put more weight on the back. Especially right there by the tire, that should help it dig. Right now, second gear, it pretty much hooks if the tires are warm. Obviously not from a dig, but a 40 roll, it's fine. When it comes up on boost, it just boogies. No more spin. And I think I'm only at 20 pounds. I might have only went to 25 pounds. It might be 20. So we can still drop the pressure some more. But we're going to start addressing some weight issues while we're waiting on our aluminum head stuff. I'll clean up this mess, and next time I'm in my hometown, I'll pick up my block, so hopefully when we get the heads, whenever that happens, we can start making progress. We may end up doing more to those heads than just bolting them on. I like the science project, these things, as much as possible, and if I had a dyno and flow bench and all these things, I would just like this every day. I'd come home and get back to it, but it's not in my control. So I don't know if I want to put them on, to take them back off, to do some stuff to put them back on. I think I might just go full send right out of the gate. Maybe. I don't know. I just want to do some more. I just want to make sure I don't leave anything easy on the table. Well, anyway, I'm rambling again. We will, we'll just keep moving forward with this thing. Just start picking away at it, getting it better and better. It needs an oil cooler soon, too. The oil still gets too hot. I think part of it's because we've got 2 turbos, so we've got 2 more little oil leaks feeding the turbos, and plus the temperature. We're not getting rid of the temperature enough. So I think a cooler will help. Also, I'll get this oil out that's been contaminated with the water and everything else and get some thicker Rotella or some Valvoline racing oil. That's what my buddy Jeff uses. He said he hasn't had any problems. I think he's using 2050 or something like that. I'll probably do that too, just to help it deal with the heat. But anyway, if you made it through all this, thank you for watching. If you're new, please subscribe. And everybody, like it. Help me out. Thank you.